Hello and welcome to PocketGamer.biz's weekly news digest. This is for the week ending the 13th of March 2015. Hi, I'm Jon Jordan. So the news, I guess the major kind of hook to hang news off this week was the Apple Watch announcement. Not the announcement because that obviously happened in September last year, but I guess it kind of shows kind of how the Apple Watch is different to other Apple launches and how Apple is a different company when it's launching the Apple Watch to how it has been launching the iPhone and the iPad. Originally, the kind of announcement came out in September. Apple then said that the watch wouldn't be released until early 2015, and the assumption was that came out after that it wouldn't really be until April, which is now we know to be the case. So the watch was kind of, I guess, again, it's not, I mean, more details were announced. There's still some things that people are unclear about. But I guess the main thing that was announced was the full range of pricing and the release date. So, and that's kind of interesting. So pricing will take in a while, but I guess even the fact the kind of like the schedule for the launch was kind of announced as being a kind of a pre-order. So that's not that unusual, perhaps, with a device like this. The pre-orders open on the 10th of April. I guess what's interesting is that Apple is releasing the Apple Watch in kind of the big territories, the US, most of the European countries, Japan, China, Hong Kong. But what it's doing on the 10th of April is pre-orders will be available online, so that all the pre-orders are available online, but all the Apple shops, or some of the Apple shops, the key Apple shops in those territories will have the Apple Watch available. So I guess unlike the phone and the iPad, which you could kind of see a photo of them or video of them, and you kind of knew what you were getting, and you obviously to hold a physical hardware object is kind of required to fully understand it. But a watch is such a personal device. I mean, that's a term that CEO Tim Cook was using all the time. It's our most personal device ever. Blah blah blah. But clearly, with wearable devices where you're wearing them on your wrist, we all know what a watch is, but an Apple Watch, it's going to supposedly, if it's going to be so different, I think Apple really want to get it into people's hands. So that's why you have this kind of prolonged kind of pre-order period where you can go into the stores. They've designed this special kind of display table that will have certain types of watches, and obviously there's kind of three different types of watches in terms of the materials of the watch, the kind of the case of the watch, and then there's a vast number of different kind of straps. So there's going to be elastoplasma straps, there's leather straps, there's metal link straps, there's metal band straps, there's all manner of different straps, and that's kind of where the customization comes in. But Apple's clearly making sure that for the Apple Watch, which I mean, no one really knows kind of how launch is going to go, and Apple's clearly spending time making sure that if people are interested, they can get it in their hands straight away. And obviously, from their point of view, the amount of engineering they put into the tactile nature of the device, they're hoping people will stop playing around with the watch in an Apple store and go, right, kind of that's for me. So, there's you can get them, start pre-ordering from the 10th of April, and then 2 weeks later, 24th of April, the devices are actually released. So presumably, even now, there's a big warehouse somewhere in China full of Apple Watches, or wherever the warehouse is. And that's another kind of interesting thing, that the kind of pricing kind of may go to moderate. It's very unclear, depending on who you talk to, what the kind of expectation of device shipment is going to be. So we've kind of had, to date, wearable computing wrist devices, smartwatches, have not been a big kind of a consumer product. So, I mean, the biggest name to date really is Pebble, which is a much less sophisticated watch. It was obviously a big Kickstarter a couple of years ago. They've probably done over $1 million, but that's like the $150 kind of $200 watch, so it's much cheaper. The Android Wear devices that have been out there, I mean, a number of different manufacturers, from Sony to Samsung to LG to Asus. There's not been really a standout signature device in that range, but generally people reckon all in all less than $1 million. Those devices have been shipped, and a lot of those will have been given away free to developers. So you can probably say the market is around the moment 2 million, probably less than 2 million units. So anything above that from Apple, obviously, will be doubling the market, and Apple will be the biggest kind of provider of smartwatches. But obviously, this being Apple, everyone's expecting, a large amount of shipment. So I think you could kind of say anything in the first year of kind of between 5 and 10 million would be seen as a success. It's very unclear really how many Apple fanboys there are who would go out and buy what will be at the cheapest level, a $350 smartwatch. I mean, obviously in the UK, actually the exchange rate is not very good at the moment, and the dollar everywhere in the world is very strong. So the US $350 is by far and away the cheapest way of getting an Apple smartwatch. But then there's some kind of obviously when it comes to analysts, there's always kind of a bit of inflationary pressure to kind of give the highest level of shipments, and some of them were saying, oh, maybe there'll be 20 or 30 million Apple Watches sold in the first year. And then there was some crazy figure in the Financial Times. I imagine they must have got the decimal point wrong, but they were saying 315 million Apple Watches shipped in the first year. I mean, clearly that's preposterous. I don't think Apple would expect that to be the case. I guess if you kind of imagine Apple announced during the Apple Watch press conference that they'd sold their 700 millionth iPhone, then I mean they're not all kind of still alive. Obviously the 3GSs and the 2Gs and all those are long gone now. But I guess if you expect the kind of current level of iPhone users in the world to be maybe 450 million kind of live devices, if Apple got 10% of those people to buy an Apple Watch, then you're talking kind of 40 million units. That would be pretty impressive. I think anyone would be pretty impressed with a tie ratio of 10% on that. So we kind of mentioned price a little bit. So the bog standard one, I mean, in a sense, kind of they're all bog standard in the sense that there's two different sizes. So there's a 38mm and a 42mm, just because big guys like bigger watches, and women like smaller watches generally, or men with small wrists like smaller watches. But apart from that, all the inners are the same. But you basically have like a basic aluminium kind of model, and that's coming in at $350 to $400. Then you have the stainless steel one. Depending on, a lot of it depends on the straps, but that kind of tops out just over $1,000. If you want that one, there's I think a black anodized version of that as well. And then obviously the one that's getting all the kind of column inches, or the headlines at least, is the crazy gold edition, and that's starting at $10,000 and going up to $17,000 depending on the strap. So maybe not the bizarre thing, but one interesting thing to point out is you don't get the battery life's the same. Battery life's a bit bigger on the bigger watch. The battery life in general is 18 hours, so it's kind of interesting. Someone who uses been using Fitbit devices for a long time, so they're wearable, not really smartwatches. Although the kind of top end of Fitbit now, it could be conceived as a low end smartwatch. But Fitbit is all about kind of fitness and health and tracking those kind of attributes. And an important part of that is sleep. So a Fitbit device will track your sleep, and over time, sleep is a very kind of a key kind of feature of health, a very key kind of indicator to health. Apple Watch won't track sleep because obviously it needs to be charged, and obviously it's pretty massive, so people are not going to be wearing them overnight, and if they do, they're going to run out of battery life anyway. And that kind of, to a degree, kind of shows with any of these wearable devices the kind of limitations you have and how you kind of have to choose your use cases. So Apple have gone for a fairly expensive device in terms of a wearable. They've chosen a high definition retina screen, a colour screen, that no matter how good the battery life or how big the battery is or how efficiently they use the screen, that needs to be recharged every day. So suddenly you've got a device where you can't wear it overnight, which means you're not going to pick up any sleep data, which is to a degree makes a certain amount of mockery of all the health stuff they've put in there. I mean, Apple being Apple have made a big kind of play on how important health things is, and they put a lot of kind of there's some research stuff that they're putting into the iPhone and the Apple Watch, and obviously there's all the kind of pedometer stuff and the sports. One you kind of think one key aspect of Apple Watch purchasers will be people who are looking for a kind of maybe have a Nike running watch, maybe people who have those kind of now getting quite old devices and kind of want a running watch. So maybe they'll buy one of the low end Apple Watches, and so it will do a certain amount of the activity stuff, but won't do the sleep stuff, which is pretty important. But again, kind of coming back to the gold thing, which is the gold watch, which is everyone kind of hangs the kind of, I guess people say with Apple now, kind of no matter, everyone kind of hangs their own what's the term, their own kind of prejudices off Apple at the moment. And it's kind of interesting now that some people just think it's disgusting that anyone could buy a $10,000 Apple Watch, because if you bought a $10,000 mechanical watch or a $10,000 kind of luxury watch, that would be something that would last for a long time. potentially it's a family heirloom, pass it down to generations. That's how some of the marketing goes. Clearly for an Apple Watch, an Apple Watch will not last probably 50 years, or certainly won't last 50 years because it won't be working, the battery won't have any charge. So you kind of got this weird situation where there's a luxury priced device that doesn't really play into what luxury watches have been before. So it'll be interesting to see. But equally, the other thing everyone points out is there are lots of rich people in the world, not just in China and Saudi Arabia, but there are some people in the world who are spending $10,000 on a luxury thing is something they can do every year. So it'll be interesting to see kind of quite how that kind of market works, and whether if people who kind of you start seeing people with these kind of Apple Gold watches, or whether people just, you can actually buy it on the cheap aluminium watches, and there'll be places that will kind of spring up and they will kind of somehow manage to gold plate your watch to make you look like you have a $10,000 watch, in which case you might get robbed. I guess the biggest thing, the biggest unanswered questions, and it wasn't mentioned at all in the Apple presentation, was gaming. So the weird thing is the kind of devices are there. Apple have kind of said a little bit about how kind of health and some of the payment stuff you can do with them, and they some user cases have been put there. You can look at feeds and things like that, but it's very unclear exactly how detailed the information that will be, or how detailed the kind of interaction as a sensor you could use the Apple Watch for. So clearly there are a lot of gaming applications it could be used for. It's not really clear at the moment how much Apple will be promoting it as a gaming device, or potentially they won't be promoting it as an Apple as a gaming device, but lots of game developers will be using it as a gaming device, and kind of over time the usage case will change and it will become more of a gaming device. I guess that's the biggest unknown of all the unknowns that are still unknown about the Apple Watch. Maybe we can talk about something else next week.